Hey class, I wanted to do a brief video on the coronavirus because obviously it's such an important aspect in what's going on right now. Um, so COVID-19, which is short for Coronavirus Disease 2019, um, this is an image of the virus. You can see that it has those protein structures sticking out all over that look kind of like a crown, and that's where corona comes from. Corona means crown. It's a virus. There are lots of coronaviruses. This is a specific one, but they have that. They all have that same basic structure. Okay, so real quick, what is a virus? And if you want to know more, check out chapter 19 of your textbook. But what is a virus? It's a non-living particle. So it's not alive. It doesn't have cells. It can't reproduce on its own. It doesn't have those properties of life we've talked about. But it gets into your cells or into another organism's cells, and then it hijacks your ribosomes to make more protein, and it hijacks your DNA or RNA manufacturing processes to make more genetic material, and then you build more viruses. So most viruses have a protein coating. Some of them, like coronavirus, have a membrane, like a lipid bilayer as well outside of that protein, and they have some kind of nucleic acid, DNA or RNA. In the case of coronavirus, it has RNA. The first case was November or December. I don't know if we're clear on that yet. 2019 in China, um, and it appears to have moved from bats into an intermediate organism, likely a pangolin. If you don't know what a pangolin is, Google it. It's a really cool critter. It's like a mammal. Well, it is a mammal, but it's armored. Has little armored scales, and they're often used, eaten as a delicacy, and used in, I believe, in Chinese medicine, and they're endangered because of that. But it appears that this disease went from bats probably to pangolins, and then transmitted to humans in these markets. In parts of China, and then it spread from there to humans, and then spread throughout. It is an enveloped virus, meaning it has that bilipid layer on the outside of it, and it has a positive sense RNA strand inside. What that means is it has an RNA strand inside that acts as messenger RNA in your body to make more proteins for the virus. So here's an image of a coronavirus. We can see that sticking off are those crowns, those spiked glycoproteins. So that's a sugary protein sticking off there. There's other proteins embedded in that phospholipid layer as well. We have um, also RNA inside that we can see labeled there. So there's lots of proteins. There's a lipid layer, and then there's this RNA inside. And what happens in your body? There's a diagram of this in your textbook. It would invade the body. Your body would digest a lot of the outside layers at that point with a lysosome trying to kill it. That releases the viral genome into your body, the RNA, which can then direct the manufacture of new glycoproteins, and it gets copied to make more DNA. I'm sorry, in this case, more RNA, um, to build more of these viruses. And then that that bit of RNA then that you see here surrounded by the proteins. So we have a almost complete virus that's been produced by the cell. It exits via essentially exocytosis, and then it picks up these glycoproteins that have been embedded in your cell membrane along the way. And when it's done, you have a complete coronavirus that your cells have manufactured, if you're infected, of course. So your body makes the glycoproteins here in the rough ER. It exports them to the cell membrane, and then when this part of the virus that has been manufactured also by your cells exits, it picks up those glycoproteins, and now it's fully functional and ready to go. So this thing hijacks, like I said, our cellular machinery. We make more copies of the RNA. We make copies of the proteins. We build more coronavirus. And the problem is some of these external proteins, they dock to the receptor cells in your lungs. So that's where it finds receptors to make more copies of itself, is inside lungs, which is why we develop the symptoms we do. So how is it spread then? Well, mostly from person to person, as far as we can tell at this time. people close enough together where you could inhale droplets into your lungs from them. So if they're coughing or sneezing, and you pick up those droplets, and of course it can live on surfaces for a while as well, which is something to keep in mind. So we need to stay away from people 6 feet away or more. Um, and it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're young, you can get it. There have been young individuals die, but more importantly, young individuals who, can pass it on to other individuals. So it's very important that all students, immunocompromised students, students that have parents or grandparents, practice these social distancing rules. Um, People are most likely most infectious when they have symptoms, but you may be able to get it from people who are not showing symptoms. So it's better to be safe than sorry. And of course, symptoms include a dry cough, meaning a cough that doesn't produce a lot of phlegm and fever. There are other symptoms you can look up as well, but those are the primary symptoms. So it spreads quite easily. It's picked up quite easily, and its mortality rate is a little higher than that of the flu, and it's more easy to catch than the flu. Here you can see the rate of growth in lots of places, including the United States, which this is a few days old here. We have more cases than that now in the U.S. China, you can see where it first started, the number of cases is slowing down. So that's some good hope for the future, right? That maybe we can avoid this problem. Now in South Korea, where they really implemented really good policies about not spreading the virus, have shown a very slow rate of increase. You can see down there, but you can see how these different nations vary. The United States is just spiking right now, so we really need to take this seriously, which is why I'm talking to you on the internet, right? Here's data that I made from Arkansas. You can see from the first day, a school was canceled around here. There were only a few cases in Arkansas, but it has been growing somewhat exponentially. The rate of increase has slowed down up here a bit. Hopefully that trend continues as we socially distance. It's still going up, of course, by about 20 to 30 a day. It could spike even more, and so hopefully it will not. And it's up to us to ensure that that level of increase stays as low as possible. So what can we do to prevent this? This is why we social distance, because you can walk through a grocery store, someone coughs, you take a breath of air, now you have it. It's super easy to get that way. Um, if you do have symptoms, you need to quarantine yourself. Put yourself in a bedroom and don't come out. And then washing hands. Why washing hands? What is this thing with washing hands? Well, remember, the outside of the virus is membrane. Membranes are fats. And soap has a polar end and a nonpolar end. That polar end sticks to water. The nonpolar end sticks to the lipid layer. It's an emulsifier, just like we talked about when we talked about digestion and how bile salts can emulsify fats. Well, soap emulsifies fats. It allows fats to mix with water. So when you wash your hands with soap and water for 20 seconds and scrub them really well, that soap sticks to the virus and rips away its membrane outer coating, essentially neutralizing the virus and sending it down the drain. So that's why washing your hands is much better than using alcohol hand sanitizers, which have some effect, sure, but not as good of an effect as using soap and water. So keep that in mind, and stay healthy out there, and hope you don't mind this little extra lecture video this week. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them via email. Also, if you want to know more about coronavirus, there's a couple of great podcasts out there. One is Stuff You Should Know, has a good episode, and another one called Sawbones. I've heard a good episode on that recently as well, so you can find out information on those.